just the fact that this deal didn't get done and the start of the season. That's usually the Bucs' typical MO.
Right, and it's worked well in similar situations in terms of guys that they want to get deals done. You have it done before the season starts, so it's not a distraction that way. I guess they're okay distracting from training camp, if you will. I think that's still, for them, an allowable time to conduct business, to work out contracts. Baker, to his credit, this is back, wherever it was, a full month ahead, made it clear he was imposing that deadline of the start of training camp. I don't know that the Bucs like deadlines being handed to them. I don't think that helps things, is trying to create an urgency, deadline spur action, but they're going to do things when they want to do things. So I think if anything, sometimes that works against the idea of two sides coming together if one of them is kind of forcing the other to the table when they don't want to be there.
Yeah, exactly. We had to call an audible there, Rick, but you're back, and we're grateful for it. Your thoughts on Baker Mayfield's very pointed comments about the team. We were all there at that press conference, and I've never really heard, especially a quarterback, lay into his own team the way he did. At the same time, though, there is a picture circulating the interwebs of he and Jason Light sharing a good chuckle and a handshake, and all things are groovy there. Now, he may not feel that way about Mike Greenberg, right? But I think he and Jason have that relationship. Is this a matter of Jason and Mike kind of playing good cop, bad cop with Baker a little bit here too, to maybe eventually help smooth this over? And of course, hopefully on the other side of this, when there's a winning season and a great season from Baker Mayfield and maybe, a 5 at the beginning of that check that the Blazers have to write for him.
Well, again, I think that they have the hammer, right? Because he's under contract. He said he's going to play. He's going to ball out. Baker always bets on himself. So from that standpoint, the team doesn't have to do anything. I think it's interesting because I think the Bucs are deathly afraid of Baker Mayfield becoming a Tua Tagovailoa that hamstrings their salary cap for years on end if they were to give him more than 2 years. And I understand why he wanted more than 2 years, because a franchise quarterback would normally get that. And with Baker, these things for the player, guys, it's personal. Right. They're out there playing. They're laying pieces of their body all over the National Football League. For the team, it's business. It's the old North Dallas 40. If you're old enough to remember, when I say it's a game, you say it's a business. When you say it's a business, I say it's a game. And really, that's what it comes down to. And what's interesting is that Baker turned down, allegedly, reportedly, $50 million a year. And if they franchise him, which they absolutely will do if he has a good year, I'm convinced they will franchise him. It's even less than $50 million, right? And they could do it twice. The second year would be more, obviously. So he's not really going to gain in terms of, any kind of leverage against the team if he has a good year. I suppose he could get to the end of the year and say, well, I'm never signing a franchise contract. I don't want to play. You got to trade me or let my rights go. But it's really interesting because it's different from Vita in that he's all in. He told his team that. We talked to to Coach Robinson about that. They can't tell the difference when he's on the field, and if anything, he's got a bigger shoulder chip than he normally plays with, and that could be good or bad, right? He could try to do a little too much to make that money back, and he could get himself in trouble, or it could be the best thing for the Buccaneers because they still control his rights, but. Man, you're talking about a quarterback. You know what I mean? Like, that's a precious thing in the league, and we know where he came from. We know what he has done for this franchise. There's some hurt feelings, even though him and Jason Light can hug it up and have a beer. It is different in that Baker has said, "I'm going forward." Right? I'm not asking to be traded. I'm not going to hold out. Like, this is my football team. I want to be the quarterback that can win a Super Bowl. And then he'll say, whatever he says on the podium will be damn interesting if they get there and they hand him the Lombardi trophy. I'll be there for that. But, it's really, I don't see that one changing. I don't see them coming to him and Baker all of a sudden says, after all, that 2 years, 100 million, whatever it was, sounds pretty good to me. And I don't see them adding a third year because I really do believe, and it's ironic, they don't want all this salary cap left over if he goes out there and gets hurt or doesn't play well, right? And he didn't play well the second half of last year. Let's not forget that. This is part of the story. Part of the story is they were 5-1, 6-2, And Baker Mayfield threw 10 touchdowns and 9 interceptions in the final games where they lost 7 out of 9. And some of those came in the fourth quarter, and some of those got them beat. And so they really are fearful that they're going to get a guy who's going to, label them, get a bunch of salary cap money. What's ironic is they carried a bunch of salary cap money for Tom Brady, and he still came in here and won, despite them not having an opportunity to get other players in free agency. So it's sort of ironic, but here we are. And I think with Baker, the show goes on, man. He is not stopping to see how this plays out. And I don't think the Bucs are going to show up one day and say, how about a third year? What's interesting, and I'll finish on this, is that, he said that the offer, I don't know if he said insulting, something along those lines.
Disrespectful.
Disrespectful. Yeah. And all of a sudden, according to my sources, Adam Schefter saying that the organization felt disrespected by Baker. And,
They did.
And that's not a good place to be with these owners and this family. And so there's going to be some feelings that have to be mended. I don't think it's going to lead to anything before the start of the season.
Yeah. You know what men's offenses wins, gentlemen.
Absolutely.
We saw in 2002, Keyshawn Johnson and Warren Sapp couldn't stand each other, but yet they won 12 games together.
That's right.
Won a Super Bowl. Then when those L's started to take shape in 2003, then all of a sudden Keyshawn Johnson gets suspended and sent home and all of that. So Greg, let me ask you, with regards to how this potentially plays out, this seems like it's a real thing that the Buccaneers are kind of curious. Are you that 41 touchdown, 4,500 yard, 71.4% completion percentage guy that you were 2 years ago? Or are you closer to being the guy that doesn't hit 30 touchdowns either in 2023 or 2025? Which quarterback are we getting? Is that part of the equation too here? The fact that the Bakers had that big spike and they're kind of anxious to see, was that a one-off or can you do that again with Liam Cohen's best friend, Zach Robinson?
Yeah, that's the question, because only one of those guys really is worth $50 million a year. That's the trick. And I think had this happened a year ago, had he had a year left on his contract after 4,500 yards, after 41 touchdowns and 10 wins and a division title, it's a no-brainer, and he probably is looking at the 2 years and more. Yeah. But what he's done is he's created an uncertainty. His body of work over 3 years is outstanding. Second in the NFL in touchdown passes, third in passing yards, second in interceptions as well. But because the most recent thing they saw was a collapse that nearly cost the head coach's job. You don't want to reward that immediately. And that's what he's asking them to do. He's asking them to see them for who he's been for 3 years and not who he was for the last 2 months.
But are we forgetting who he played with, Greg? I mean, no offensive line. I mean, I know he was 5-1, 6-2, but he was a guy that won those games in the final minute, even with those guys. Then you lose Mike Evans. Then you lose Chris Godwin. Now Emeka Egbuka is not. Bucky Irving's out pretty much for the year. It's not as if there wasn't a reason, and he got beat the hell up. He got beat up because he got hit a lot.
Right. Yeah. He's the one guy that managed to stay in the game the whole way, all year long. Right. And it's not saying that the guys couldn't have. What I think is the fact that he kept playing, and this was a problem in Cleveland his last year, is that he's damaged, he's compromised physically. He wants to keep playing, but as a result, what you see on the field isn't Baker at his prime, at his best.
Yeah. Right.
So what they have to find out is if they can fix that, if they can put a healthy line in front of him, if they can have a full, healthy group of receivers. You think about last year, and you think about Sterling Shepard, how much Sterling Shepard did, like 40 catches. Sterling Shepard's not in the NFL camp right now. He's not on the roster, okay? And that's somebody that was one of the main receivers they had to go to, trying to win games. As Johnson, as a late-round rookie, stepped up amazingly well. He wouldn't be a 500-snap receiver in most circumstances.
That's right.
So you have to ask yourself, okay, if they can correct the line and get it healthy and get the receivers healthy, in theory, that should get you a lot closer to 24 Mayfield. They don't know that.
How about the play caller?
And the play caller. Another thing, again, there's lots of asterisks we can put on last season to make it clear this isn't just Baker and Baker being worse. Josh Grizzard, again, you test things, you tempt fate by having a first-time play caller another time in a row, and what happens is you get more predictable, and you're not as well equipped to handle the talent inequity they had later in the season.